In the midst of the corona virus uh, debacle, we seem to have forgotten a very important and crucial issue, and which is what I am here to remind you of, which is basically the NRC CAA debate discourse. Uh, of course, I am not here to talk about the legal or constitutional uh, discourse around it, because that's already been discussed threadbare. And to a large extent, the NRC has been spurred on with judicial sanction. So, right now, I'm not going to dwell on it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and dispel some myths and fears essentially regarding the NRCCA, and try to speculate on what exactly is happening and uh, why this discourse is going to go forward. Even when the coronavirus, when India was battling, is battling coronavirus, what we need to understand is the processes for computing the population has already been going on, whereas the caste census has not been released, and which is very crucial, because to understand the NRCCAA, we also need to have access to the caste census. So, what is exactly happening? See, what we are talking about is, the usual narrative that is being put forward is that only Muslims are going to be affected by NRCCA, or mainly Muslims are going to be affected by NRCCA. And how are they going to be affected? Now, if you look at Muslims in India, we are sort of looking at numbers. The numbers we are looking at is around 9.20 crores, which is around 14.2% of the total population of India. And now, 9.20 crore people, you can't just kill them off. You can't just put all of them. I mean, India doesn't have the resources to put all of them in detention camps. I mean, even assuming a minuscule minority, which is socially, economically, and politically powerful, escapes it. The country can't afford to put all of them in detention camps. And neither can they be deported. Nobody is going to take them, especially given that India has the second largest Muslim population in the world after Indonesia. So, what exactly is happening here, and what would happen in the future, is what I am going to try and speculate. See, the process that is happening, and the process is repeating after the Gujarat model, is essentially that there is a process of disenfranchisement of Muslims, a process of disenfranchisement which is happening. See, the caste society essentially is built on the foundation of disenfranchisement, or graded enfranchisement. I would call it graded enfranchisement, with the Savarnas having the highest rate of enfranchisement in all aspects. Okay, and as you go down the caste ladder, your level of disenfranchisement increases. Now, it is very essential to bring Muslims into this gradation. Right now, it has been happening socially. So, with the NRC, that is going to get a legal sanction. And once it gets a legal sanction, what we are going to have is, we are going to have a section of population which, at the largest number, Muslims, Dalits, and Adivasis together, would be around 39.4% of the total population, which is around 53.29 crore people, of which Dalits and Adivasis, who are already completely disenfranchised, are around 25.2 crores. 34.08 crores. That's 25.2% of the population. So, you already had a system where these people were working based on their caste. Dalits, essentially, your profession, occupations in India was based on your caste. Now, this is what NRC is going to do, is it is going to essentially legitimize that process. Now, you would ask me how. What is happening is, for instance, let us take an occupation like sanitation work. So, sanitation work is essentially done by certain castes. Now, these castes, what they are paid is basically, and even the rights that they access, is basically determined by their level of enfranchisement. Now, when this is legitimized, the level of lack of enfranchisement is legitimized, what would happen is their access to, with on paper, the access that they have to labor rights would essentially be withdrawn. So what would happen with NRC, CAA is that you would have a bunch of people, a large bunch of people, I do not know what the numbers would be, who would be left out of the counting process. Once they are left out of the counting process, once they are left out of the citizenship roster, what do you do with them? What happens to them? So they do not have regular citizenship rights. So when they do not have regular citizenship rights and constitutional rights, they are left at the mercy of Savarna or other employers who would be completely free to employ them on the terms of the employers. The employee will not have the negotiating power for that. I mean, to illustrate it, it's very simple. Most middle class Savarna households in India cannot live without household help. Domestic workers are essentially a part of it, part of their daily life. Okay. Now, these domestic workers would, the way the immigrant Espanols work in parts of United States, these workers would be available at half the price that other workers, workers with citizenship would be available. So and the moment these workers take up these jobs at half the rate, the polarization becomes sharper. So what we are going to have, what we are actually looking at is a minimum. And because I have not added other vulnerable backward castes who are already marginalized to this numbers. So what we are going to have is a minimum of 50 crore people who would be available as workers at slave conditions. And these workers would be available across the board. So here India would be using its population strength to compete with China and other countries to manufacture or produce cheap goods because they can afford cheap labor. So where is NRC going to? NRC CAA is going towards creating a new labor caste or multiple labor castes which would be legitimized in law, which is what we need to understand. This is not about killing. This is not about deporting people. This is essentially about creating a new or not a multiple new slave castes. And this is essentially what one needs to understand about this process. Thank you very much.